Hello, I'm Susie Howell, the Administrative Director of the Healing Arts Alliance of the Big Bend, which is based in Tallahassee, Florida. Today I am interviewing Dr. Amelia Kemp about her new and much anticipated book titled From Psychotherapy to Sacretherapy. Dr. Kemp is a board-certified alternative medical practitioner, metaphysician, licensed psychotherapist, and CEO of the Sacretherapy Institute, a division of the Southern Institute for Family. Welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
In the Healing Arts Alliance, as you know, we are fascinated by complementary and alternative treatments that are becoming available in a wide range of healing practices. In reading the introduction to your book, I was excited to see that you are offering a holistic alternative approach to mental and emotional health.
Yes, I am.
Your book states that you are the first psychotherapist in history to offer the world an alternative way to describe, interpret, and treat all 170 mental and emotional diagnoses. Could you explain what you mean by breaking these down one by one, beginning with the alternative and holistic way to describe these diagnoses?
Apparently, yes, I am the first to offer this particular alternative and holistic treatment modality for all mental and emotional diagnoses. Because as it stands now, mental and emotional diagnoses are viewed from the medical model, which is a disease model. The medical model terms mental and emotional diagnosis as disorders, which makes people feel defective and sick, like something is wrong with them. Because a disorder suggests that there is an abnormality which didn't manifest correctly. I don't agree with the disorder type of thinking, because based on the laws of creation, the way something comes into manifestation is the same whether the manifestation is dis-ease or wellness, which is why I prefer to describe and classify mental and emotional diagnoses as reactions, which is a response to something which I believe is more consistent with the universal laws of creation. This is why I say in my book to anyone and everyone that's listening now, you're not sick, you're sacred, and simply having a reaction to something. This is a crucial distinction because Sacretherapy removes pathology and stigma and helps people understand their intrinsic value and worth, and that never changes. So they come to know that something has caused them to get out of alignment with the fullness of their being, with the assurance that they can always realign. So how we describe things is important when it comes to self-acceptance and acceptance of others who are experiencing mental and emotional diagnoses. As such, my book, From Psychotherapy to Sacretherapy, is the first to offer people a completely different description of their diagnoses, which offers them tremendous and sometimes immediate relief.
Okay, and could you now share what you mean by your alternative approach to how we interpret mental and emotional diagnoses?
Absolutely. Interpretation is about the meaning that we attach to mental and emotional manifestations. This impacts the person's belief in their ability to realign with wellness, or if they feel defective or doomed. So interpreting it as a reaction signifies that the manifestation is simply a response to something and therefore not static or permanent. So when it's viewed as a reaction, they have simply temporarily gone out of alignment or fulfilling a divine intention in the first place. And anything that's gone out of alignment can be realigned with wellness or well-being, given the right information and antidote. And so, which is where Sacretherapy process comes in. We offer the holistic antidote throughout the entire treatment plan, which is why I say you're not sick, you're sacred. Because when it comes to mental and emotional diagnoses, we're dealing directly with thoughts, which are in the invisible realm, which means that they're in the non-physical realm, which is a dimension of subtle matter and energy, which is why the original definition for psyche, which means psychology, was the study of the soul or mind. There was an understanding that thoughts were a part of the spiritual aspects of one's being. And so how we interpret what a thought is and how it manifests when it comes to mental and emotional diagnoses is paramount.
Mm-hmm. And this brings us to the third part of my question, which has to do with your recommendations on the alternative and holistic ways to treat mental and emotional diagnoses or issues.
Yes, treatment is crucial because the details of our life are sacred, and so I believe that healing it should be too. It was philosopher and biologist Teilhard de Chardin who stated that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. But the way mental and emotional diagnoses are primarily treated now is with the focus just on the mind and body, not including the spiritual aspects of one's being, which is why I believe it's fragmented. If we are supposed to be healing the whole person. And this same fragmentation, however, exists when it comes to a person just going to their pastor for religious counsel, because that leaves out the psychological, biological, and sociological aspects of mental health. So my treatment modality focuses on blending and integrating all aspects, mind, body, and spirit, so that we're treating the whole person. So how we treat greatly affects perception of mental and emotional manifestations, which in turn affects prognosis. That being how quickly one would realign with well-being. So the Sacretherapy treatment plan brings people back into alignment with the fullness of their being, which I believe is theirs by divine right anyway. And so I offer alternative descriptions and aligning processes for all 170 diagnoses, 22 healing exercises, and 12 additional aftercare interventions, including online aftercare, which is directly with me. But in the meanwhile, while you're going through the steps, you are invited to attend my radio program called From Psychotherapy to Sacretherapy, which I offer weekly support, which is on blogtalkradio.com and also will be featured on YouTube. So the treatment plan is geared to self-help treatment, or you can do it with a psychotherapist or even clergy. So I offer CEU trainings for both therapists and clergy, because therapists are missing the spiritual piece and clergy's missing the mental health piece. So I have separate CEU trainings to offer both how to use psychotherapy process.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So in some ways, your list of diagnoses in Chapter 3 seems to do for mental and emotional health what Louise Hay did for physical health. Is that right?
Yes, I actually honor Louise Hay in my book because I love and respect her work. Louise Hay offered an extensive list of physical diagnoses, whereas my concentration is on mental health, where I cover all 170 mental diagnoses. So she took care of your body, and I'll take care of your mind. So I stand on the shoulders of giants in the field of alternative and holistic healing, and honor all of them in the acknowledgement section of my book because they did the pioneering work. I'm talking about all the early metaphysicians that go way beyond her work and mine, back to the Egyptian Imhotep and the Greeks like Aristotle, who is said to be the first to publish the term metaphysics, to the Theosophy Society, where there was Charles Leadbeater, Charles and Merrill Fillmore, William Atkinson, and who did the law of attraction back in 1906. I mean, this paradigm goes back to antiquity. So I honor all light workers and alternative healers, known and unknown, published and unpublished, because they are what inspired me to offer my work. Plus, it always amazed me how when I was teaching as an adjunct psychology instructor, many of my students were surprised to learn that New Age was not new. So the contemporaries, I tell them, came much later, like Carl Jung, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, Carolyn Myss, Ayanna Van Zandt, Wayne Dyer, Esther Hicks, Abraham. The list just goes on and on. It's a mighty list, and I am honored to be a part of this reawakening of consciousness.
You honored quite a list of authors, philosophers, metaphysicians, and healers in the holistic paradigm in your acknowledgement section. How do you distinguish your contribution?
Well, I think my contribution is this, in the fact that there is a thread that is being sewn throughout the fabric of holism. We're primarily looking at philosophers and metaphysicians back in the day who were not considered, based on today's model, as pure scientists. So I'm able to bridge the gap between being both a scientist and a metaphysician. So I think I uniquely add to the conversation my ability to break down the metaphysical principles and terminology in a way that fortifies mental and emotional health specifically. And I think that the metaphysical and spiritual principles being validated by a licensed psychotherapist for consumers who are used to experiencing this type of information only from a minister is very important, because it demonstrates that there is a oneness within the healing modalities.
With your unique blend of disciplines, it was interesting that you arrived at the place where you found spirituality to be as crucial to healing as many philosophers purport. And does the fact that you named your treatment modality after the word sacred mean that those who embrace sacretherapy will have to be religious or believe in a certain religious path?
Oh, no, not at all. The word sacred in this context has to do with just being whole, as in holism, mind, body, and spirit. Understanding that the spirit is a part of our threefold being without promoting any specific path. Spirit, I believe, is free to flow in and out of divinity without walls. There are as many faiths and spiritual beliefs as there are people on the planet, and so Sacretherapy supports this diversity. It is helpful to be aware of the fact that life is being lived beyond the borders of one's neighborhood of like-minded sociology and theology, and that there is diversity and contrast of universal proportions out here with equally valid scripture trumpeting the same God source or energy. So believer or non-believer can surely benefit, even if they don't allow terminology or conditioning and memes to get in the way. One man's energy is another man's God. It's all one as far as I'm concerned. And so I will submit, though, that having a spiritual foundation, those people do move through the steps faster, but non-believers certainly can and have benefited. In fact, 25% of my practice is still traditional. Those are clients who come forth that do not want to embrace spirituality, and I honor that because we're all in different places. And so the fact that I ask that everyone just recognize that there's no right way or one way to tap into holism or spirituality.
Mm-hmm.